You're listening to A Bit Later, a midlife stand-up podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ziegler, and in this bonus episode, we're not discussing comedy, but instead creating awareness around men's mental health. Jimmy Couture is a men's transformation coach. He's helping men stuck in life gain clarity and level up into the man they're proud of. We dive into Jimmy's story of loss, street life, jail time, and eventually reform. I worked with Jimmy for 12 weeks, and I do not believe I would have started this podcast or started doing stand-up again if I hadn't. Very happy to put this episode out there, and remember, if you're in need of help, there's always someone to talk to.
All right. Well,
Right.
I'm here with Jimmy Couture. For context for the listener, Jimmy and I met when I was in need of a coach, really, for some midlife stuff that I was going through that we can talk about. So, as part of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I wanted to have Jimmy on the show. He actually encouraged me to start this podcast, and really happy to have you here. So, welcome. Thank you.
Awesome, Steve. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. And that's so cool that that I kind of had a part in that alone, right? Like that's really cool. And yeah, like I recall that as well. I remember, having those conversations, and then, we ended our coaching sessions and all that kind of stuff. And then you went off and you actually did the stuff that we talked about, right? Like you're like, yeah, and you really put things in action, right? Which is so awesome to see.
Yeah, it was really cool. It resonates with me. You said like kind of do what makes you happy, do what lights you up kind of stuff. And as scary as that can be, it's important to do those things, and take those steps. And it's working out so far. I think it's fun. So um but let's get into a little bit of your story and what took you on this journey of like really wanting to help people, getting involved with coaching. But the floor is yours. Tell us your
Oh man.
backstory.
Okay. No pressure. The backstory. Yeah, I think I've said this story 100 times in just, 100 different ways, right? It always comes out different every time, but I think the gist of it is having just I had an um I had a really negative experience as a kid, right? Growing up, I was bullied a lot. We moved to like a new area, a new province, right? I'm here in Canada, and then a little later on after that, when I was a teenager, I was 13, my mom passed away from cancer. So then I just like I was already involved in this like bad crowd. And then after that I kind of just went all in, right? And I didn't want to I don't know, I didn't cope with it right. Right. So I just kind of went all in like on the streets and with the bad crowd. And then I was in and out of youth jails and detention centers. I didn't go to high school, right? I would go in and out of high school. I would get expelled all the time. I would just go there to like sell drugs or pick up girls or, meet up with my friends, get them to skip, right? I was your negative influence, more or less.
Right.
So yeah, it took me a while to turn things around. Um, I want to say I did that for about 10 years, right? I just kept on getting deeper and deeper into the street life to the point where I almost like it was a goal for me to move up the ladder, right? Like you saw these higher ups and you wanted the respect. And so the more you did, the worse shit you did, the crazier you were, the more you were feared, and then the more they wanted you on your team, right? On their team, right? So
Mhm.
it was more like you're now forgetting about you, almost like your actual real life or like the people in your life that matter, and you just care about like, okay, this is what keeps me safe, right? It became like a safety and survival thing, right? Like being on the street and being part of the higher ups keeps you safe, right? Um, so that was my lifestyle for about 10 years in and out of jail. I ended up in adult jails as well. And then, I ended up having a couple kids. And after a while, I was struggling with the idea of like, I was okay to throw my own life away. But then once there was other people in the mix that I was taking down with me, I think that hit different, right? So I started waking up in the mornings like, wow, what am I doing? Like I started, there would be certain scenarios where, you know, you might live or die or in the situation. And I used to not care about that, right? Like the most feared people are the ones that are ruthless and don't care whether they live or die, right? So I started getting to a point where I was like, oh man, I don't want to get into this because I have kids, right? And I don't want to. I ended up I didn't want to give them the same reason why I started, right? Like losing a parent or having a parent in jail for the rest of their life, or like I didn't want to see my kids through glass, right? I wanted to. I was like, shit, now I got to actually step up and be a father, right? Like it was hard because I didn't know that life, right? Like I didn't know how to be a dad or a responsible person. So I was like, oh, you don't want me in their lives anyways, because I'm gonna be a bad dad. So turning my life around wasn't just like, okay, now you should get a job and be a good dad. And it's like, yeah, but what does that look like, right? Like, what are the characteristics of a good father or a stand-up citizen in society, right? And not only that, like I burned bridges for 10 years on purpose because I didn't care about the consequences. So then when it came to turning my life around, I'm like, there's no way. I got to fix the last 10 years of my life. I have no education. I had like grade 6 was the last grade that I actually completed right on paper. So I'm like, I have no high school education. I have no job experience. I have nothing on a resume. Like I'm screwed, right? So it was really hard because I'm like, if I turn things around, I really have to start at zero and some, and then learn how to, like, I don't know, gain the trust of like my family again or anyone, right? And even for myself, it was hard for me to like look at myself in the mirror in that capacity, right? So I was like, I had to really amplify and um like figure out what it is to be like a good person and love myself enough to actually fight for myself and do it, right? So it took a long time. It took a lot of work, right? And I ended up going to university. um I got into university as a mature student because I'm like, I have grade 6, right? They're like, we'll give you a year. If you can keep up, you can stay, right? So I just gave her shit, and I kept failing because I'm in university and I have grade 6, right? I didn't even know what an essay was. They're like, dude, you're in the wrong room. Like, go do something else, right? So I had academic advisors telling me to go for plan B and do something else, and you're just failing and you're not going to make it and all this kind of stuff. So I think it just drove me to be like, no, like fuck you kind of thing. Like this is my only plan and I'm going to do it. Right. So it took me about 6 years to get a 3-year degree, but I still did it. Right. I still persevered and pushed through. And, every year I wanted to quit. Every year there was a pile of textbooks. I did a bachelor's degree in history. So I was just reading all these textbooks, and I was reading all my lectures as well because I was doing like kind of correspondence because in class I just didn't get it. Right. Yeah, so it was really tough. But I think, yeah, just persevering and like pushing through, right? Because I'm like, you can't, what are you going to do with half a degree, right? So what's the point? So I just had to keep going, right?
That
So
yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. And congratulations to you for that. Of course, that's admirable. I knew that part of your story. I didn't know you were a history major. We could talk about that, but that's cool too. Was there a point when you were like kind of in and out of juvie or in and out of and in and out of adult prison? Was there anyone there that kind of inspired you in a way that was or talked sense into you while you were like on the inside, or like vice versa? Were you at any point talking to younger guys like they're like, like you don't belong here kind of stuff? Were there any instances that you remember that stick out to you?
Yeah, like there was one guy that he was actually it was in when I was in adult jail, right? And I think I was 18 or 19. It was my first time doing adult time, and I went in, and just this big, scary looking guy, long hair, tattoos everywhere. I think he was about 40 years old, and like he just ran the place, right? And I had no idea why. I had no idea who he was, right? Um, but I later found out, right? Like he ran for the big biker gang in town, and he was up for like murders and all this kind of stuff. Like he was big time, right? And he kind of took me under his wing, and I would try and cause shit, and he would try and talk sense into me and be like, no, it's not worth it. Like you gotta, get out of this lifestyle. He's like, I have the woman I love is on the outside, and I'm looking at life in prison, and I'll never see her again, right? And
Wow.
he's like, I fought for my team, I fought for everybody, and now I'm here doing life. Like for what, right? So I think that was kind of a wake up call for me, right? That I was like, you know, I think when I got to a point in time in my life where it was like that go big or go home moment, when I was on the street and I was like, wow, these guys like want me to run shit, and I'm like finally up this ladder, then it like my whole life flashed before my eyes, and I was like, shit, I'm gonna end up like the same way he did, right? I'm gonna end up either dead or in jail forever, right? Because there's no end to that ladder, right? You keep climbing, you keep doing stupid shit, you know. So it didn't scare me at that point. Like when he was talking sense into me, I was like, yeah, man, I do want to change when I get out. But when you get out, you just jump back right back into that lifestyle. All your friends are there. Yeah, Jimmy just got out. Let's go party. And you just fall right back in, right? Because the more time you do, the more street cred you have, and so on, right? So it's really hard to break that cycle, right? But I think when that moment came for me, I was like, no way, man. Like I have kids, I got to get out of here. And I just chose to really change and fight for myself, right? So I think having someone who's like, well, you want to climb the ladder, I'm here at this ladder, and this is where I'm at, right? Sitting in a cell. So he's like, if
Right.
that's what you want, then keep going. But if not, then go the other way, right? So
That's important to hear that. And also it sounds like realizing that even climbing the ladder, like the loyalty is for nothing at some point, right? You
yeah,
because they're not going to be there for you when you're on the inside forever.
no,
Like in
exactly.
that case. Yeah.
Exactly. Then you're truly alone, right?
Yeah.
And what you care about, even if you want to turn your shit around, sometimes, you're in there for a long time, right?
Hmm. Wow. And you had shared some stuff with me about like your relationship with your dad and how like that had gotten stronger over the years. But reflecting on like losing your mother so young, there's kind of a theme that comes up a lot on the podcast of people who experience a loss of some sort, experience death, and then that changes, the path that they go on, right? And from that like young age, do you kind of remember like I know you said like you kind of just didn't care at that point, just got deeper in the streets and whatever. Can you, if you remember, like describe kind of that feeling of like that switch that changes with grief, and maybe how that may impact you now to move in a more positive direction?
Yeah, I think like in regards to my father, because like what I didn't understand, and I recently, like a few years back, I wrote this poem, and in the poem I stated like, um, I was like, I was, I acted like I was the only one who lost someone, right?
Mm.
And what I didn't realize that he also lost his wife, right? And she was the love of his life, right? And I'm sitting here being an asshole at 13 years old and, robbing and stealing and in and out of jail. Meanwhile, this guy just lost his wife, right? So, man, if I could turn back time, like I would do it way differently, right? And be there for him, right? But it's like no matter what, he was always the guy that showed up at the youth jail, bringing me clothes or visiting me every Sunday, even though, he had to work and do all this kind of stuff, and he had two other kids to take care of too, right? So, um, yeah, definitely hard to remember that kind of stuff, but uh turning it to now, like he's my best friend. Like we have a great relationship. I have a great relationship with my family, a great relationship with my dad. But yeah, he always stuck it out for me, right? And I think for me, my mom passed away from lung cancer, right? She smoked like a chimney, and I blamed myself when I was a kid. Like when she passed away, I blamed myself a lot. She's like, "Oh, I smoke because you stressed me out or something," right? But even though it was just a passing thing, it kind of stuck in my head, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, was I the reason I was too much of an asshole all the time that stressed her out? But you get to a point where like when you're an adult and you turn your shit around, you're not clouded by drugs and alcohol and all the time, and you get that clarity. You're like, no, like it wasn't my fault, right? And yeah, grieving is tough. for sure, it takes a long time to come out of it, right? Like to, I don't want to say come out of it, but more or less like accept it, right? Like, because I didn't accept
Mhm.
it then, right? For sure. Like, I had no idea. Like, I remember I was mad at my dad for a long time because he's like, "Don't worry, people go to the hospitals, get better," right? And I thought she was going to be okay, right? So I didn't really think that she was going to pass away, right? So when I think my sister called me early in the morning and she's like, "We got to go see mom." I'm like, no, and I was sick at the time and I had mono while she was at the hospital, which is weird. But my sister woke me up. She's like, "No, we're going," and we went, and she was in a different room, and no machines hooked up anymore, and all this kind of stuff, and everyone's crying. I'm like, what's going on? I don't get it. Right. And it took me a minute to figure it out. And I was so mad because I had no idea. Right. It caught me off guard big time. Right. So I think now grieving as like an older individual, we can just like me, my brother, my sister, and my dad, like we can just like reminisce about the good times and the good memories of my mom. And she was 41 when she passed. She was really young, right? So
Yeah.
so it's definitely just more sad than anything to know that she didn't get to like live that full life, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. And what you're saying as you get older and processing things is much different, but you're right, it's not about like getting over anything. It's like it's an acceptance and a different
Yeah,
way to view it. Reflecting on certain things because and what you said about like the anger and disbelief, and not to go too far. My father lost his father when he was like 8 years old. And he said all he kind of remembers is just people being sad, and he was just like angry, just saying like that's not true. He's not dead. Like that's the only memory he has, like kind of that time of the
yeah,
passing away. So it's like, yeah, as a child, it's I don't know. I didn't experience anything like that. So it's you know so different than what you can understand as an adult because we don't understand death yet, really at all. We don't. It's just it's over. I don't get it. Kind of like you said, disbelief. Yeah.
yeah. As a kid, it's really hard. It took me a long time to actually accept it, even when I was a kid, because I was like, I didn't understand, right? I was like, no, she's not gone. Even at the funeral, I was like, that's not her, right? Like I couldn't
Right.
even like the emotions weren't hitting yet, and I think it took a couple weeks or a month or whatever to like finally sobbing in my bed, realizing that she's never coming home, right?
Mm.
So,
Yeah. That is tough. If you could, you know, share any advice for any young people going through that situation, what would you tell them?
um, I think a good thing that I do is like I often it took me a while, but like to go to her like her gravesite and talk to her, and I actually wrote her a letter apologizing, for being an asshole or whatever when I was a kid, right? Like I just, I was a teenager, whatever, right?
Hmm.
But just writing out my feelings, kind of like journaling it all, right? And it was actually a youth custody uh guard. It was a jail guard when I was a kid. There was Mother's Day was coming up. And I was like, no, and I'm locked up. I'm locked away in like a room or something like that. I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to deal with it. Right. I hated Mother's Day. And she's like, "Oh, why don't you write something, whatever?" I'm like, "No." But I ended up writing it. And she's like, she brought me to the gravesite and all that kind of stuff. And I
Oh
wrote the
well.
letter. I read the letter to her out loud, right? And it kind of gave me that closure, right? Like, I'm sorry for anything and I miss you and, all that kind of stuff. And, I'll still talk to her once in a while and just like, sit somewhere out loud in a park or wherever it is and just express any feelings or whatever, or if like I need help in reaching out, or I don't know. I feel like sometimes they're never really gone, or maybe they are. You don't know, but I think sometimes it just helps to talk to them either way, right?
I agree with that 100%. Actually, yeah, I have a family member, an uncle specifically that I was very close with that I'll do the same thing often. So
Mhm.
I get that. I appreciate you sharing that. Um, so kind of going back to the timeline of you finish university, you get your history degree. Where do you go from there? What's the next step from your journey?
I feel like at the time it didn't matter how much education I had because I still had a criminal record, right?
Okay.
Here in Canada, you can get a Canadian pardon. Um, Long story short, it took me a while to get my pardon. So even though I had a bachelor's degree in history, I still couldn't get a job anywhere, right?
Mm.
Because they're like, well, you have a criminal record. That's the first thing that they're gonna want you to bring to the interview, right? And it always is. So, so I actually looked into. I'm like, okay, well then I might as well get more education, right? So I looked into college. I went to community and justice, which is basically like kind of like social work stuff for youth in the justice, in the justice system, right? So I'm like, if I can't, it was almost like maybe I'll beat them at their own game kind of thing and like bring my life experience into the mix, right? Like
Okay.
who wants, like I know like through experience from working with people in addictions and all that kind of stuff, it's like, sure, you can be a social worker with, all the book knowledge you want, um, but they're always going to, come across the table and ask you, yeah, but have you experienced this? Have you experienced addiction? Have you experienced grief and loss? Have you experienced mental health, um, issues, right? So they want to learn from experience from people, right? So that's how I flourished in that field. But to go back to your question, yeah, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go to college in a field that my life experience is an asset, right? So I went to college. I was able to do the whole program within a year because I already had a lot of credits from university. And then I got into like the youth justice field, right? I went and worked at a youth custody facility out in the middle of nowhere for a while and got my feet wet in that field. And it was really cool because I'm sitting down with kids they're exactly like me, right? Like I was sitting here where you were before, right? So it was really cool because then I connected with them like the first day, right? And all the other staff, they're like, man, how you connecting with these kids? And like he's trying to punch him in the face. And meanwhile, I'm putting the kid in a headlock and messing around with the kid. And we have a great relationship, right? Like day
Right.
one, day two, right? Because I know what he's going through, right? I'll sit down beside him and we'll have conversations instead of, you know, um, acting like I'm above him or better than him or, his superior, right? So really cool way to get that experience into that field, right? So then it just made me, I was like, yeah, I like working with people that um, I was in their situation once, right? Because who better to do it, right?
I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. And that's important, especially in that's such a heavy field and social work in general, as we talked about. We both
Yeah,
work in a similar field, different roles. But yeah, that's totally admirable. And I think that is a problem sometimes of people who get into the field maybe without the experience. I feel like they're coming across as like the principal all the time or like this, like always an authority figure. And that's
yeah, they might have a
well,
harder time connecting for sure.
for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so in terms of, you've taken us through like your own mental health journey, or your journey really in life. And then, so you're working in social work as your career, working with youth. What led you to want to work with, men, specifically men in like our age range, I would say, and wanting to give them advice and help them through these midlife issues that they might be having?
Um, I think I've always wanted to do like some kind of coaching, right? I remember doing I worked in addictions for about 4 years and I was facilitating groups to a bunch of men, right? And we're doing kind of like a harm reduction approach. Some of the guys followed AA, some of them didn't, right? But because the program was relatively new, I was able to like throw my own flavor in there, right? And I would teach them things that I experienced in my life that I was able to overcome. So I would throw all this kind of stuff in the mix, right? Like the guy raised his hand, like, "Oh, I can't get a job because I have a criminal record." I'm like, "Well, I got you there, right?" "Oh, I can't go to school because I only have grade." I'm like, "Dude, I got you there too, right?" So I had a lot of the answers to the barriers that they were overcoming, right? So I think the more I went through life, um, the more I'm learning, right? And like for whoever doesn't know, I'm 47 years old, so I turned my life around around 23, right? 22, 23 years old. So all this time I've been doing a lot of like personal growth. That's been like my biggest journey, right? Like I used like fitness and nutrition to try and um, curb that whole addictions piece, right? Which really helped because I was like, man, I'm gonna die from all the drugs and solvents and all the stupid shit I did as a kid, right? I'm gonna die in my future really young because I did all this stuff to my body, right? So I was really scared. So I'm like, I need to know everything about nutrition and fitness and health and be super healthy and optimize on that because I don't want to die, right? I don't want to die young. I don't want the people that love me to have to sit at my bedside because I chose to be an idiot, right, with my life or choose the wrong coping strategies or whatever it was, right?
Right.
Um, so I forget where I was going with this now.
Nutrition and fitness. Why you did that?
What was the original question?
My original question is what led you to want to help, I guess,
Oh,
men
okay.
who are a little older. I know like your job has been youth, but your coaching
Yeah.
is focused on mainly men 30s and
Yeah.
up,
So,
really midlife 40s.
yeah. So, like, my
Yeah.
whole life experience, right? Like the last 20 years, for example, it's like it's been personal growth and going through all these barriers, right? I feel like I've been in a midlife crisis mode for like the last 10 years, just
Mm.
barrier after barrier after barrier. But I think it's because I'm very goal oriented, right? So it's like I'll have a goal, I'll set it, I'll grind at it, I'll figure out a way to get through it, and then I'll have it, and then it's like, hey, what's the next goal? What's the next goal? What's the next goal? So I'm always trying to get through a bear. There's always a barrier that I'm trying to get through, right? And I always set a new goal and a new goal. But I've had a lot of barriers that, people like getting a pardon, for example, or getting a job with little work experience, or I don't know. I recently went through a divorce, right? It's like these kind of things can break you a lot, right? A lot of times, and it's broken me a lot, right? But it's like whether or not you're able to get back up and keep fighting for yourself, right? So for me, that's my character, is getting up and fighting for myself, and also wanting to help other people because I see so many other people struggling with their mental health or their addictions. And I see that when I worked in addictions with the guys, they're like, man, you have so much insight and all this kind of stuff, and we want to be where you're at. And I'm like, that's great, right? They're learning a lot from me. So I'm like, maybe I can transfer this and help more people, right? And in the same areas that I struggled with and got to the other side of. And there's a million things that I'm still struggling with because I'm always setting goals, and there's always barriers, right? Like when we talk about midlife or midlife crisis, and when I first started coaching and I jumped on like Reddit or Facebook groups, for example, right? Like what's midlife crisis, or that kind of stuff, especially for men our age, right? Like 35, 45, whatever it is. Um, I think that balance piece is huge, right? Like when we worked together and I threw that whole life assessment thing
Mm.
out, right? And we're like, okay, let's look at life as a whole, right? Like let's really look at it, right? Like throw it on a whiteboard, your life as a whole, right? Like what's your physical, what's your social, what's your environmental, all that kind of stuff, and see where your strengths are and your weaknesses are, and what I don't know, like we can sit there and look at our whole past and be like, oh man, I regret this, I regret that, but you'll never know the what if, right? Like that whole fork in the road, like, oh, but what if I would have went that way? And it's like, well, it could have been way shittier. Something else could have happened. Like you don't know, right? Like, and you can't sit there and like ruminate about the past and what you could have done with your life. Or, I can sit there too and be like, man, I really, I wish I would have stuck it out in high school and played soccer. I love soccer and I never got to do any of that. And it's like, yeah, but what can you do now today? Right. So I'm like, yeah, now I am on a soccer team, or I do these things now because I can still change now. I can't change the past, right? So what are we doing with now, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think it's just about helping. I just love helping people through barriers, right? That I kind of went through similar ones, right? We're all on the same journey, right? And we become like, I don't want to say just men, but we're just big kids. We're just older, right? And you have to find you have to either find your purpose and find in life, and just have that whole balance piece is huge, right? I learned so much in the last couple of years about letting things go, right? Like letting go of all the small things that just piss you off, or even the big things, right? Like focus on what you can control and, fuck the rest, right? Because there is truly nothing you can do.
That's
Right.
great advice. Yeah. And the letting go piece, I think, is tough. Like for me of being more difficult on myself, like the whole like give yourself grace kind of thing. Like if people piss me off, I can let that go. But those regrets that you have about yourself can certainly like weigh you down
Yeah.
if you don't remain present, like you're saying, like, well, what can I do now to make this better? Like I didn't like that decision, or maybe I'm not 100% happy with where I am, but nothing's really for a lot of people, it's not irreversible, and
Mhm.
you can change the path that you're on. Um, what are some what are some of the biggest challenges that you see, like with men specifically, that or maybe what categories of the wellness wheel did you really like experience people struggling with the most? And I know everyone's story is unique, but are there any common threads there?
Um, like the whole mental health thing is a big piece, right? I think as men, we're very hard on ourselves, and it might be a comparison thing, right? There's the social media thing now, or even like comparing yourself, like, you jump on Facebook, you see 10 or 20 of your friends that you went to school with, and they're flying around in nice cars, or they have the job with and it for sure it's surface shit that you don't even actually know what's going on in their life, right? Really. Um, but we might compare ourselves, right? Even with
It's
fitness.
natural.
Oh man, I don't have six pack abs. Oh, I suck, right? And it's like everyone has different goals, right? Like, um, but yeah, I see depression a lot for sure, and guys being really hard on themselves, right? And sometimes it's hard to push forward, right? And I go there too, right? I get really depressed sometimes, and I don't want to do shit, and I feel like, just life got a hold of me, and I can't figure a way out, right? And I think it's about going back to that whole like balance piece. It's like, okay, there's nothing I can do about my career piece right now, like literally nothing. So what else can I focus on, right? Like, am I gonna sit here and pout all day about my career? Or am I gonna like make sure I still hit the gym, or like fuck hitting the gym, go for a bike ride or whatever it is, right? Like fitness and activity, and we can get into that. It doesn't have to be hitting the gym and, back and chest and buys and tries or whatever. Like I can't stand that shit. I did that for, 10, 20 years, and it just gets boring, and you feel like you have to do it or whatever because it's just something men have to do, right? Um, yeah, like I think fun is the biggest thing that we have to throw in there, right? And not be so hard on ourselves when we fall into debt or lose our career, or, a relationship breaks down or whatever. It's like, this is the journey you have in life, right? Like we're a small speck on this big planet, and, we're gonna come and go, right? And it's like we can sit here and piss and moan and cry about it, or we can just like make the best of what we have, right?
That's accurate. And what you just said kind of stuck with me of something that I'm working on as another piece for Mental Health Month about like the challenges. And I think overcoming things is necessary in order to like really feel that happiness. Because I think for a while I was like hung up on like making my life really comfortable, and I didn't understand like how comfortable I made it. And then all of a sudden there's this kind of, there's this rocking of the boat, and it's like and everything seems so much more intense than it actually is, really. I mean, not to discredit anyone what they're feeling in their mental state, but a lot of that is like locked up inside of us, I think. And
Mhm.
and if you have a good network on the outside, you have a support system, and then, yeah, certainly I'd like to hear you or your opinion about like fitness and all that, because I think that's one of the keys too, to burn all like biologically and
Mhm.
also kind of spiritually, for lack of a better word, of just feeling better. If you're not
Yeah,
active, your mind is just going to go insane. You're just going to be your own worst enemy. That's been my
yeah,
experience anyway. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But even like I remember seeing a Reddit post, and the guy was like, "Is this all there is to life? Work, eat, sleep, and I go hit the gym for a couple hours every day." And he's like, "I'm tired of hitting the gym. I don't even care anymore." And it's like, then don't. No one's telling you you have to go to the gym, right? Like
Hmm.
take a week off, who cares? Or do something else that's active, take up parkour or I don't know, get a bike or, you know, dodgeball. Like who cares? Go do fun shit, be involved in community, like surround yourself with positive people or people you want to be like, right? There's different angles to it, right? For sure. Like a lot of people are, fit as fuck and they don't hit the gym every day, right? They play volleyball or whatever it is, right? Like they're into something else, right? But there's a lot of people that are happy or have like extracurriculars, but it's not like fitness or anything like that, right? It could be art or, you know, something else, right?
Hmm. I
So,
agree with that. Yeah.
mhm,
It allows you to be present. I think having multiple activities, where the fitness stuff for sure. I know for me, like lately, obviously doing this podcast and doing stand up, it takes my mind. Like when I leave an open mic or something like that, it's like, oh, there, that was 3 hours that I wasn't thinking about any problems because those problems are very minimal and aren't doing any, like, they'll be
yeah,
fixed, right? But right now I'm here to work on myself. And I think which is going to help everything else. That's been
yeah.
a realization.
It's a huge thing, I think, and it's kind of like tied to mindfulness, right? It's like if you can find an activity, something you're doing that, even if it's for half hour, an hour, whatever it is, where like when you sleep, your mind doesn't even shut off, right? Like we're always go over your dream about something, whatever. But when you practice like mindfulness, which is not like meditation, it's like, throwing the frisbee around or something, right? Whereas like you have to focus on this one thing, or you're going to get the frisbee in the face. So you're focused on, the back and forth. You're fully present, right? And then, like I remember, I used to do it with the guys in the addictions program. I set up this whole group juggling activity where like you're passing to the one person, and there's balls crossing everywhere. They're flying all over the place, and these guys are having a blast, right? And like 20 30 minutes goes by and we're all in this activity, we're all engaged, we're all laughing their heads off, and then we put the balls down. I'm like, is there a point in time where you ever thought about your addiction or your relationship or anything like that in the last 20 minutes, half hour? They're like, no. It's fully present, fully engaged.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's mindfulness, right? So it's a way to like kind of shut off your brain for a while and do something else, like get into a flow state where you're just like you're doing something you enjoy, right?
Yeah. That's exactly the best way to describe it. Yeah. Um, and one of my questions was, what are some some changes people can make in a concrete way? And I think you just kind of nailed it there. Of like, do an
Yeah,
activity that you enjoy. It's going to keep you present. Um,
yeah,
and you'll want to do more of it too. It's not like a one off. It's not like
yeah.
you're going to go, play basketball for one game and not go back to being active. Like, I think there's also sort of an addiction there of feeling of just kind of dopamine and feeling good, being
Mm.
positive that keeps you going back.
I
Uh,
think the balance piece is like super important,
yeah.
right? Like, for example, like my job stuff, having an issue with career stuff,
Hmm.
for example, let's just say. And it's like all day I'm sitting there like career jobs, employment, that whole aspect of the wellness wheel, let's say, for example, that little slice of the pie, I'm like, all my time and energy is going to this. I'm getting stressed out and all this kind of stuff. And my girlfriend was the one who told me, she's like, what about balance, right? Don't forget about balance. Like, go do something, right? And I'm like, shit, yeah, you're right. Right. And it actually helps me like clear my mind and regain that focus and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, maybe I take an hour out, go for a bike ride or rollerblade or whatever it is, right? Like go make some food, do something else, like focus on the other aspects of your life, not just the one, right? Like it's not all work, right? We can't just work all the time, right? Just like when we were having conversations, right? You're stressed out about career stuff or whatever it was, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like if the job is boring or whatever, and same with my job is boring, so it's like, what else can you do to like fulfill your life in a good, positive, fun way? Whereas your day is not completely like just work and sleep, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like you jumping into all this kind of stuff has been great for you, right? And for me, like I think it's better when it's summer. Like winter really sucks here. So there's not a lot to do. But definitely in the summer, like I'm outside, like from morning till night. Like if I can have my laptop outside, even like I'm nature guy for sure, and that really
Nice.
helps.
That's really
Right.
cool. Um, so I want to ask you a few questions more a little bit on the fun side, kind of like
Yeah,
going
let's do
back
it.
to um what era of like history most interests you and like why? Why do you draw down on any specific area if there is one?
Oh my God, if you're relating to anything like my bachelor degree, oh my God,
Well, just in general,
it
if
was
you're
like yeah, I'm like that stuff was like in one ear out the other. Like the Socrates and Plato stuff was really cool. Like I think the philosophy aspect of it, right? Like
Mhm.
these philosophers just like dropping knowledge, I think was really cool. And I think trying to decipher it was a whole other story, right? Like
Mm.
this was written long ago and it was all, you know, Latin stuff. Um,
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah, I think
difficult.
that's a really cool era.
Nice. So I mean, it's the foundation for so many other things and governments. Um, so that makes a lot of sense. What do you think, or excuse me, why do you think it's important to find like humor in personal struggle and how can you do that?
Oh man. Um, I don't know. I think it just comes back to like letting the shit go, right? Like I think, like I don't know, I don't have a situation as an example, but uh like sometimes I'm even like driving and I'm like white knuckling it and I'm just like I like it could have been like something I drove by and it just triggered me and I'm like living in this past moment and I'm like white knuckling and I'm angry and I'm thinking about this whole past experience. Um and like how I would have played it out differently and all this kind of stuff. And and realistically, there's nothing I can do about it, right? So um, I'm like, wow, I really like I just lost, 10, 20 minutes of my time and I don't know how I got to from A to B either because I was driving meanwhile I was in my head.
Hmm.
But I think letting go is the biggest piece, right? Um, I don't know, humor in um I want to say like humor in negative situations.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. It's almost like hindsight, right? Like you'll see it after. Um, like maybe the way we reacted to something was like super negative and like we went off the handle or kind of ate at us all day. But meanwhile, when you look at it at the end of the day and you're in a more calm state and you're like, fuck man, I just wasted a whole day on shit that I had no control over anyways, and it didn't have a good outcome anyways, right? Like I was better off just, letting it go, right?
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if that answers your question as far as
It
like humor goes.
No, it does because
Um,
it's about not taking it's basically like not taking yourself so seriously. I think is what you get down to.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
does require some time. I mean, humor does. So it requires some time away from the situation, which I think you hit the nail on the head
yeah,
with that. Yeah.
yeah. And even like watching stupid, funny shit like on Instagram or TikTok or something like that, sometimes it's like it just lightens your mood, right? You just start laughing about stupid shit, like I don't know, cats running around or like all these, funny videos that people post. Sometimes I just go into like this whirlwind stream and I'm just like, laughing my head off at these things. And I'm in that moment. I'm not. It's kind of like an escape of like my actual life, I guess,
Yeah.
for a bit. But me and my brother always go back and forth. You have these few people in your life where you just like send stupid shit back and forth.
Exactly.
That's me and my brother always sending stupid shit back and forth. So it gives me a good laugh. Or I'm even laughing like I'm like I can't wait till he sees this because I know he's gonna laugh, right?
Yeah.
So.
Do you have a specific like any kind of genre of comedy that you like or what specifically like makes you laugh?
And now I don't know, maybe just like people getting hurt doing dumb shit, like not them getting hurt, but like it's their own fault anyways. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, they're so stupid, right?
It
Yeah,
is funny. Yeah, you get like a whole stream of America's funniest home videos on Instagram every day. It's pretty
yeah.
funny. Yeah. Um So this is a question that I kind of ask every comic at the end of the podcast is, what do you think your younger self would think about you now? What would they say about you?
Younger self, if I were to go to like 13, 14 or something, uh, yeah, I'd be like, no way, you're full of shit. Like he's a gangster for life, right?
Mhm.
Smoke weed every day, like forever, right? Like I was so into like the old school 90s hip hop and just like even my sister being like, I hate my job. I'm like, just quit, don't work for the man. Like just, had no idea, right? Like what actual life is like. Um, so yeah, I think that he wouldn't believe it, right? But I think he'd be proud of me, right?
Yeah,
For
for sure.
sure. I think that's the same way like that I see my relationship with my dad and my family, right? Like I know he's proud of me. He's seen me, do some speaking events or I did a poem a couple of years back at a mental health awareness event actually. And it was like a 6 minute long poem, but he never heard me rehearse it before or practice it or anything. So he just showed up to the event and I was able to like I memorized this thing like the back of my hand. So when I spit it out, like he was just like on the sidelines, just in tears, just like, wow, awesome. Right. So it was a really proud moment for me and for him. And I know he's super proud of me. So I guess the same way that, my younger self would be proud of me and my mom as well. Right.
Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, so is there anything that you want to share? And like, where can people find you? That kind of thing. Obviously, I'll put links in the bios and all that.
Yeah, I'm on like LinkedIn or Instagram mainly, right? Jimmy
Mm.
Couture. I have the Reformed Delinquent account, but it's pretty much the same shit as my account. I have the free life assessment in a link in there in my bio. If anybody wants to do it, I know you did it. It was pretty useful, right? Like
It
the whole
was.
wellness wheel and the whole breakdown of all the different aspects and just trying to see where you're at kind of thing in life, like your weak points or your strengths and yeah, that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's great. And then for anybody out there that's listening that might be going through a rough time, it's a really good exercise to do. Take stock, and that there's always somebody to talk to as well. Make sure that you find someone in your life, or maybe someone you don't even know that well, that you can speak to about issues that you're going through. So it's helpful and it's necessary. It's totally worth it. Um, Jimmy, I really appreciate you doing this. This was fun. I'm glad we can add you to this special episode. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Really cool, really cool. And I love what you're doing with the podcast. And I've been watching the videos and super cool. I'm super glad like you jumped in and fucking did it. It's great,
Yeah.
man. Super proud of you.